Hi, my name is Stephanie Garon. I am a Baltimore-based environmental artist, and I'm here to hang out with you today to take you through my exhibition, Decomposition, at the DC Art Center, DCAC, in the heart of Adams Morgan in Washington, DC. I wanted to take just a couple minutes to talk about some of the philosophy of the exhibit and maybe go a little bit behind the scenes for the process of how I made some of the pieces. So let's start over here. So this is a piece called number 0842, entitled that based on the label that the steel was given. My work, especially for this exhibit, was based on kind of a smaller art movement called Art Povera. Art Povera was big in Italy in the 1960s, maybe early 1970s. And there was an artist there that I fell in love with, and his name is Yannis Kounelis. Yannis was Greek, or was born in Greece, and then moved to Rome, and that's where he based his art practice. And the tenets of Art Povera, there are really two. The first is to connect the individual to nature. And the second is, on the heels of Dadaism, to kind of question, challenge the meaning of what is art, what can art be, and what is it comprised of. So it's in this sense that I'm bringing nature, things that are outdoors, inside the four corners of this white wall gallery. I'm bringing it in much in the same way that Yannis Kounelis did. I'm taking items from nature, so roots, trees, vines, and leaves, and putting them in an environment where they're not traditionally located, or that they are located where they're put on just for display. So in 0842, we have a suspended leaf, and this leaf invites the question, is this art? Is the leaf art? Is nature art? Is what is happening outside art? And then, in turn, what is our connection to it? So that with our own movements, with our own breath, what's our impact? How do we change? How do we relate to the nature that's around us? And then taking that to the next level, how does humanity relate to it? How does our industry, our building, our impact with construction then relate to nature? So we are taking a look at a piece called Hush. Hush. When you're told to be quiet when you are compressed, when you are oppressed, when nature is oppressed. And so when we talk about connections, well, 0842 was suspended either by air or philosophy or your mind. This is a piece where the lines connect, where the impact is tactile. So this was the initial iteration of this, right? So it's the idea, the sense of movement, the movement of industry, of humanity, and how, as kind of like a second thought, we damage nature, we hurt nature, we have this impact on nature. And it's a second thought because humanity keeps moving, right? And so with one flip, with one movement, this piece became not about balance, but it became true to its title. It became about that tension and that pressure between nature, between the leaf, and between the steel. Now that said, my work is my voice. And this leaf has been through a lot. This leaf is enormous, right? You're not here. So it's in length, 2 feet. 2 feet, a 2-foot leaf. How amazing is that? How beautiful is that, right? And that leaf is actually in many parts of Maryland at least, where I source my materials, where I live, is considered a weed. So it's from a princess tree, right? So my work does have this kind of undercurrent of feminism, of my own voice. But this princess tree leaf is decaying, it's decomposing. And so to flash back to that Art Provera movement, my question to you as a viewer is, what is your impact? What have you done to contribute to this decomposition? Are you contributing, or are you just curious and interested in seeing the composition or the formal setup of this interaction? So that leads us to our last piece. This last piece is also about these same concepts, these similar philosophies. My work combines organic, natural elements with metal, with a metal armature. And so I wanted to talk for a minute about how this was made and why this was made. So this piece is the largest piece, longest piece that I've made. That's a wall piece. So it spans about 13, 14 feet with the steel. And I made it in 3 parts. So the first part I made with this lighter gauge wire, right? So you might remember from art school or from studying art that the lighter the gauge, the thicker, the heavier the steel is. The heavier gauge, the thinner it is. So I start with these pieces. And these pieces are very, very much based on, well, truly vegetal designs, vegetal patterns. So think for a minute, okay, I know I'm really, really getting the rust out of your brain right now. Back to Persian art, back to Islamic art, the Great Mosque, where there are walls and walls of these kinds of patterns. And the motive for this is nature, is the actual biomorphic geometric forms, both of those, that can be found in leaves, that can be found in vegetables, that can be repeated and then take on new meaning. And so that was my first step. The second step was then building around them with both charcoal and beets. So I wanted to try new things. So I tried mushrooms and I tried beets, which have been so red and also slimy and somewhat mysterious, and had really no idea how to cook them or eat them. I still kind of don't. But I was mesmerized. That color, right? When you look around, you don't see a lot of color in my artwork. But that one color is so symbolic to me of what light, what vibrancy was going on inside of me. And so I took the beet. No, I didn't boil it down, I didn't squeeze it, didn't make juice. I just took the beet. And I took the beet and I started drawing with it. I started drawing with it on this. And so while from far away, it's hard to decipher where the color is or where the beet is, it is evident, it's slowly emerging from this, just like all those new things are slowly emerging within inside of me. So this piece became about navigation, my own philosophical navigation, and where I was headed. And so it was clear to me that it needed a map. It needed some kind of grid. And so my inspiration for this comes from one of my most favorite pieces of art, or series of art. And that's something that the Pacific Islanders do, Polynesians. For many, many years, it's been tradition that they take sticks, not pen, not ink, not paper. They take these sticks and they make, and some of them are so small, right? They're the size of your hand. They make maps with them. And they make these maps, they use these maps, and they've done this for hundreds of years, passed down from generation to generation to navigate the waterways, right? And so while Europeans were making maps, right? It's like 1400, 1500, and those are so beautiful in their own right. And to navigate the seas, the Europeans would require these maps. The Polynesians use nature. They use what was at their feet, much in the same way that I'm trying to do. And they wove these sticks together into these handheld maps. Okay, could you picture them like big trees, like carrying them on the boat? No, that was not gonna work. So these are handheld maps. And the way they worked, and if you look them up, please look them up, because there are no two that are the same. And these sticks create the grid, okay? They take a grid and they then place on them these curves, and the curves are the currents around the islands in which they lived, the currents as they go out to sea. And one of the most beautiful things to me is the use of seashells. So instead of these little like rings, or in my work you might see some seeds in there, the Polynesians would take these seashells and weave them in. And those seashells are symbolic or represent islands, right? So all of a sudden, this piece and its 3 layers merges together and becomes this enormous philosophical piece, right? Where am I headed? Where are you headed? I want to wrap up with one of my favorite quotes by Fitzgerald, which is so significant for where we are right now. And that is, so we beat on, boats against the current, borne vast ceaselessly into the past. That's his piece. Where I'm headed right now is someplace that builds upon these tenets, builds upon my juxtaposing nature with industry, nature with humanity. I'm working right now with 8 10-foot steel I-beams. I'm working with tree trunks the size, well, twice as big as I can hold or I can carry, because my voice is ready to be heard and I'm ready to present it. And I couldn't do that, 1, without the support of DCAC, 2, without an incredible curator with Jerry Trong, and 3, without 3 Baltimore-based artists that serve as, well, really my pit crew. So if you like my work, or you're interested in some of my work, I would love for you to then support these 3 artists. So I want to thank Bill Schmidt, Michael Owen, and Ann Walsh for all of their support to get me to this point. And that said, I hope you're excited about the journey that I'm on. Please feel free to follow me on Instagram. It's Garon, Garon Studio, or visit my website at www.garonstudio.com. Thank you so much for your time, and be well.